What if everything you've been told about the law of attraction isn't the whole story? It's only half of it. Now, some of you may not fully believe in the law of attraction. I know I didn't. For a very long time, I had a hard time justifying it with my faith. But I'll explain that during this episode of Done Pretending. Because here's what I've learned it's not the question of what do I want to attract? There's a better question to ask. And it's time we started focusing on that. Welcome to Done Pretending, the podcast where healing meets authentic living. I am your host, Susan Houston, storyteller, mentor, and believer in the power of truth to set us free. This is your sanctuary for the soul, a safe space where we peel back the layers of judgment and fear to uncover the beauty of living real. Each week, you'll hear stories of courage, resilience, and transformation that remind you it's never too late to become who you were created to be. Here's a question I want you to sit with right out of the gate. What if everything that you've been told about the law of attraction is only half the story? What if the vision board, the affirmations, the manifesting, what if they're not wrong exactly, but they're aimed at the wrong target? Because here's what I figured out after coaching dozens of high achieving women through usually the biggest transitions of their lives. Most of us have been trained to ask, what do I want to attract? More money, a better relationship, a meaningful second chapter, freedom. And don't get me wrong, those things matter. They really do. But according to neuroscience research, and I'm going to bring in some fascinating work from Harvard psychiatrist Dr. Srini Pillay, my new favorite person to study. The more powerful question is actually the one that actually moves the needle is, what do I want to become? That question, that's the one that changes everything. So stay with me. Welcome back to Done Pretending. I'm your host, Susan Houston, TEDx speaker, reinvention coach, and the person who decided a few years back that I was simply done pretending that the life that I was living was the life that I was meant to be living. I couldn't just say, I'm fine anymore. So if you're new here, welcome. This podcast is for high achieving women. Most of them are 40s, 50s, 60s, but I have people from every realm. And we are all standing at the edge of something big. Maybe you're still in your career, but you can feel that shift coming. Maybe that exit is getting ready to happen. Maybe you've already stepped away and you're figuring out what's next. Maybe you're smack in the middle of the most disorientating and exciting season of your life. Wherever you are on that trail, this is your place. We are here together. So today's episode, it's just me. It's a solo one, but it's inspired by something that landed in my inbox yesterday. It was from Dr. Srini Pillay. Srini is a Harvard-trained psychiatrist. He's a brain image researcher and one of the most interesting thinkers I follow, especially when it comes to the neuroscience of change and performance and how we actually transform our lives. He runs the Neurobusiness Group out of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I want to give him full credit for the research and the framework that I'm riffing on today. Because you see, what he shared yesterday stopped me in my tracks, and I've been following him for a while. But once I saw the connection to the work that we do here on Done Pretending, I knew I needed to share this with you all. So let's talk about the law of attraction. Now, some of you are nodding along politely, and some of you are already rolling your eyes a little bit. I get it. This concept, the law of attraction, has been around for a long time, but it got massive attention after the movie The Secret came out. And I want to say that was 10 or 15 years ago. And for a lot of smart, grounded women, it can feel a little woo woo. I 100% kept my distance from it for a very long time because I just felt like it did not connect to my faith. It did not connect to reality. And the truth is, it connects to all of it. It is all of it. It is my faith. It is my relationship with God. So here's what I'm going to say about that. Your skepticism is actually really useful information. And don't be embarrassed by it. Don't discount what I'm going to talk about without hearing everything first. Because this version of the law of attraction that Dr. Srini Pillay teaches and I talk about, it's different. Most of it is oversimplified, and it does sometimes tend to veer into magical thinking, and it almost gets the focus wrong almost every time. The way it's typically taught goes something like this. Get very clear on what you want, visualize it, feel it, and it will come to you. Now listen, there's something really real in that. Clarity does matter. Belief does matter. Emotional alignment absolutely matters. But here's where it breaks down for so many women that I speak with, and it was this way for myself as well. They get crystal clear on the outcome, the job title, the income number, the lifestyle, and then they sit in this strange in-between space, waiting, visualizing, hoping. And when it doesn't materialize on schedule, they blame themselves. They assume they are not believing hard enough, or vibrating the right frequency, or thinking positively enough. Well, does any of that sound familiar? Let me tell you, faith cannot exist at the same time as fear. So, first of all, you have to have faith that what you are meant to become, what you want to become, can happen. If you constantly have these doubts and fears behind you, it cannot coexist together. So, that's the first part. And here is what I've watched happen over and over again when I've been working with people. Women come to me fixated on the destination. I want to leave my corporate career. I want to build a new business. I want to feel relevant and purposeful again. I want to have freedom. And all of those are real, valid desires. But what's become so outcome obsessed, let me say that again. They've become so outcome obsessed that they've completely skipped the most important question on our roadmap. They're so focused on the destination that they haven't asked, who do I need to be to actually get there? Now, we talk a lot about this in our Done Pretending podcasts, in the teaching, because we as women have been putting masks on for so long. But when we strip away those masks and we start rediscovering ourselves, and then we start thinking of the future, what we need to really think about is this missing trail marker. Who is it that I need to become to get there? And this isn't pretending to be somebody else. It's actually figuring out who you are on the inside. And as it turns out, the research backs this up in a really profound way. Dr. Srini Pillay shared something in his newsletter this week that I found genuinely fascinating. And I want to talk you through it carefully because I think this reframes everything. He referenced a study by Gan and Chen from 2017 that challenged one of our most basic assumptions about authenticity. Now, most of us believe And I think this is deeply wired into women, especially, that we feel the most authentic when we simply are being ourselves, showing up as we are, unfiltered, real. And there is truth to that. Authenticity matters enormously. I talk about it all the time. It's one of the core pillars of everything that I teach. But here is what research found: people actually felt more authentic when they were expressing their current selves. Not, not that, not when they are expressing their current selves. Um, this is a little confusing, and that's okay. You know, um, women especially will feel the most authentic when they were in relationships and environments that allowed them to express the qualities of their ideal self. Not expressing their current selves, but expressing the qualities of who they truly wanted to be. Let me say that again. Expressing who you aspire to become, not just who you are today. That is what matters and what makes you feel most authentically yourself. So, Srini put it this way: authenticity may not come solely from expressing who we are today, it may also come from expressing who we aspire to be. And for a moment, I just want to sit with how radical that just little shift in thinking is, because here's what it means practically. The version of you who is more courageous, more visible, more at peace, more purposeful, she is not some future fantasy. She's not fiction that you're just constructing. She is an expression of qualities and capacities that already exist within you and that simply haven't been given full permission yet. And here's the line from Srini that I couldn't stop thinking about. It's less about attracting and more about aligning yourself with the person you most want to become. When you change who you are being, what you notice and what you do often change as well. That right there, that's the whole game. When you change who you are being, you notice different opportunities. You interpret setbacks differently. You make different decisions. And over time, these small shifts accumulate into meaningful changes in your life. Not because the universe magically dropped things at your door. You know, you can't manifest something. You can't sit there and just say, "Okay, God, just give me all of this." Guess what? You need to be an active participant because you become someone different enough to receive all of these opportunities. Now, here's where this lands a little hard for me because the research connects directly to the heart of everything that I talked about in my TEDx talk, and frankly, everything that I do. My TEDx talk is called Secondhand Doubt: Why You Don't Trust Your Own Success. I think all of us can relate to that one. But the central idea is this: the self-doubt that most high-achieving women carry isn't actually all theirs. It was given to them by a boss who kept them small, by a system that didn't see them, or a culture that told them they'd peaked by a certain age. A committee in their head made up of everyone else's opinions of who they should be. A lot of times, this comes from people that we trust the most, that we respect the most. And oftentimes it can come from our childhood, from our parents, our teachers, our coaches as well. I call this secondhand doubt, and it can be absolutely devastating, toxic, because it creates this fog in between the woman who you are today and the woman you genuinely have the capacity to become. And here's how that connects to what Dr. Srini is describing. If your ideal self, that truest, fullest, most expressed version of you, already contains the qualities of who you were meant to be, then what is the law of attraction actually asking you to do? Well, it's asking you to stop performing the version of yourself that was shaped by other people's doubt, other people's timelines, and other people's definitions of success. It's asking you to be done pretending that the smaller version of you is the real one. That's the whole thesis of this podcast right there. And here's what I've seen in my work. Most women in mid-career transitions or midlife transitions aren't struggling because they don't know what they want. We have an idea what we want, but we struggle because we've been pretending for so long, playing the role, wearing the armor, checking all the boxes, that we've genuinely lost contact with who we actually are underneath it all. And I went through this so much. A really simple example of that is a friend asked me my top 5 bucket list places to go. I couldn't name them because she would call me out every time I said something because I would say, that would be a great family trip. I think so and so would really like that. Oh, he mentioned that he would always like to go there. And she kept saying, Susan, where do you want to go? And I couldn't do it because I had built this role to support everybody else and I had lost me. So the ideal self-exercise that Dr. Pillay describes in his work is essentially the same excavation we do when I coach the women that I work with. It's actually stripping away the accumulated layers of people's expectations and finally getting honest about who's actually standing there when all of that falls away. And let me tell you something. She's remarkable. You're remarkable every single time. The women that I work with, the ones who've run departments, built teams, led through crises, navigated systems that were never built with them in mind, always solve the problems. When they finally get still enough to ask, who am I at my very best? The answer can take your breath away because she's been there all along. You have her within you, and she's always been there. She wasn't attracting something from the outside. She was becoming more of what was always on the inside. So the question then becomes, how do you actually do this work? How do you stop fixating on outcomes and start aligning with your ideal self? Well, I'm going to walk you very briefly on the 5 steps of my Inhale framework because this is exactly the sequence that I use with my clients, and it just ties beautifully to what Dr. Srini Pillay is describing. Inhale, INHALE. Step 1 is investigate. This is where you get radically honest, not about what you want to achieve, but about what you've been suppressing. What version of you have you been keeping behind the curtain? The N, name it. Once you've investigated, then you name what you find. Not with an apology, not with hedging. This is simply information that we're gathering. So you need to get radically honest about it. You name the fullness of who you are. This is connected to the authenticity research that Srini cited. Naming your self ideal qualities activates them neurologically. The third step is H, hold. And this is where people will tend to rush through it, and I have to slow everybody down because it can cost you everything. You have to hold the space between who you were and who you're becoming. You can't sprint into the next identity. You can't fill that gap just because you have anxiety over it. It's going to be uncomfortable, and you have to be willing to sit in that in between. The fourth step, A, align. This is where behavior meets identity. You start making choices from the ideal self, not from the old story, not from the old expectations. You take the call, you raise your hand, you pitch, you say the thing that you've not been saying. And the fifth step is L, launch. Not a dramatic announcement. It's not going to be an earth shattering moment, and it's not going to ever be perfect. So stop waiting for it to be perfect. It's just simply consistent, courageous, forward motion from the person that you are becoming. And the final step is E, evolve. This is something that we all need to be doing constantly. We cannot stay stagnant because it's not a one-time excavation. This is a continuous process of growing into who you actually are. This to me is the real law of attraction. And it's not about pulling things toward you from the outside. It's about becoming clear enough, courageous enough, and aligned enough that you stop missing the things that were already always and already meant for you. So the opportunities will come. You just have to be aligned, aware, and courageous enough to see them. And here's why the timing of this just feels so significant to me. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in synchronicity. Things happen at the right time, at certain times for a reason. And this Thursday, which is just in a couple of days at 4 p.m., I am hosting a live workshop, and it's called the Reinvention Roadmap. Everything I just talked about is woven into the DNA of that experience. So this workshop really is directed for people who are high achieving, usually women I work with, but I have had men involved, who knows that you are at an inflection point. Maybe you're still inside your career, but you're planning your exit. Maybe you've already left and you're standing at the trailhead wondering which way do you go. Maybe you're somewhere in the middle, not fully in, not fully out, and living that uncomfortable in between, like, what am I supposed to do here? Well, the Reinvention Roadmap is your compass for the moment. We're going to do the real work together live in a focused, intentional 75-minute experience. And we will look at where you actually are on the map and why, and not where you think you should be. We'll identify the identity shifts that are blocking you from moving forward, and we'll build specific, personalized waypoints along your roadmap for your next chapter. This is not a generic one-size-fits-all plan. It's one that's actually built for you because guess what? You're going to do the building of this. It will fit around the contours of whatever your life is currently. And I've built this workshop around the same question Dr. Pillay is asking. Not what do you want, but who are you becoming? Because your next chapter doesn't necessarily start with a goal. It starts with a decision about who you're done pretending to be. and who you're finally willing to become. This workshop I offer monthly. So if you're listening to this podcast and it's past the date of July 9th, go to my website, thesusanhouston.com, and it will have a link in there. You can find out the next date. This one's free. It's something that I really feel passionate about helping people with. It's all based around my own experience as well. All of the links are in the show notes, including my TEDx talk. If you haven't listened to that, I invite you to go listen to it and leave me a comment on the YouTube channel if you can. I'd really be interested to know how it resonates with you. You can also direct message me Roadmap, and I can send you the link to register. I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you for joining me on Done Pretending, where healing meets authentic living. If today's conversation moved you, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't yet, be sure to follow the show and leave a review. Your words help this message reach more hearts around the world. Remember, you are seen, you are loved, and your story has the power to set others free.